Hi, my name is Don Bolt, and this is a review session that I'll be putting up for you to be able to get yourself into to what we've been teaching for the introduction to the Comparative Worldviews course that I teach. And so, okay, you should have the review sheet with you. Even if you didn't take this part of the course and you're just trying to catch up, the review sheet will be really key to this, okay? Because that kind of focuses in on some of the key concepts that we covered in introduction that'll put you in a good place to be able to step into section number 2 where we'll be dealing with theology. But this is Introduction to Worldviews, and so I'm going to just move my way down through here. First of all, a very key concept. Ideas have consequences. All of us know that actions have consequences, but this is a key teaching in what we're going to be looking at is the idea that ideas, the people have a right to their ideas. We've talked about this, but I say people don't have a right to their ideas unchallenged, okay? We have a responsibility if somebody is believing something that's wrong or mistaken, to speak up. You don't always get the opportunity, but when you have the opportunity, to understand that those ideas have consequences. If you remember the example I gave was, I jokingly referred to him as Uncle Karl, the philosophy professor in Germany who thought, well, philosophically I don't believe there's a God, and since I don't believe there's a God, I don't believe there's a revelation that tells us what's right and wrong, and perhaps the world's problems aren't moral as we thought, but perhaps the world's problems are economic. This is an idea that gave birth to Marxism, and basically, if you look at the country of the Soviet Union as it existed for those 70 or so years, in that time, like 100 million people were put to death. All right, by this government because they're viewed as being people who are slowing down the progress of Marxism or somehow interfering with the progress of this. A lot of different problems with these ideas, and so ideas have consequences, and to just keep that in mind. That this course, as we're teaching it, is something where we're going to be looking at ideas quite a bit. So it's a little different than maybe other courses that you've taken in that it's going to be a balance between what we call content, okay, which is information, and concepts, which are ideas that help you to know what to do with that information. All right, so I'd say typically in high school, as you've approached this, most of what you've been learning has been highly content driven. In other words, I say A, you say A, I give you an A. In this course, in the beginning it's kind of 50-50 and starts moving more and more towards the idea. Mostly what you're going to be learning is ideas and learning how to work with those ideas, all right? So that balance of concepts and content that are here. Okay, so let's get started with some of the other materials, but those two things, don't let them blow by you. I mean, they're important. You need to understand those things and be thinking on that, because that's, so much of this is about thinking. This is the world of thought that you're being introduced to in new ways, and you're going to learn to think in ways that perhaps you haven't done much prior to taking this course. So be on the alert and don't shut down. If I start telling a story, don't break away and feel like, well, this is just a story. I never say anything in this class just for fun, all right? Everything that I'm saying is important for you to learn, and especially in this format where we're learning and only meeting once a week, very important that you take the time to get this. All right, so next, all right, definition of a world. What is a worldview, okay? A worldview, 3 points to the definition, okay? First part, okay, it's a system of ideas. All right, so it's not just one simple idea. It's grown and has become a system of ideas, a group of ideas that work together that usually originated in some original thought. Okay, and so it's a system of ideas. Okay, that tries to answer all of the important questions about life. Okay, so questions about God. Is there a God? And if there is a God, what's that God like? If there's not a God, why don't I believe there's a God? And, in essence, what will I substitute for God? Because God serves a necessary function in a worldview, and if you take God out, you have to replace that with something else, and we'll talk about alternatives that people suggest. All right, ethics, what ought to be done, what ought not to be done, things like philosophy. All right, so there's a list of about 10 subjects, okay? You'll see them on the chart in the beginning of your textbook, which is Understanding the Times by David Nobel. You'll see this chart, and down the edge of that chart on the left-hand side, you'll see a list of subjects that a worldview needs to address in order to be a complete worldview. All right, so it's a system of ideas. Okay, it is going to try to answer all the important questions about life, and then lastly, it shapes the way we view the world around us. Okay, very important thing to So that's the definition of a worldview that I'll permit you to use in class, and that's the one we'll work with through the year. There are other definitions of worldviews. You're free to take a look at those and grow from that, but that's the one that we're going to work with in class, all right? So how does a worldview become a worldview? Well, it starts off as an idea. Okay, so these are the steps in the development of a worldview. It starts off as an idea. That idea then becomes a philosophy, where an idea, might be an idea like, life is sacred. All right, so so I might develop from that idea a pro-life philosophy, and that pro-life philosophy would say, well, all life is sacred, perhaps, and so therefore I disagree with war, I disagree with abortion, I disagree with medical procedures that shorten life. Therefore, this is my pro-life philosophy: is that life should always be honored and should always be kept as best we can. Somebody else might have a different philosophy and say, well, I think life belongs to the individual and they should be able to do whatever they want with it. Again, philosophies. All right, so you'll find a lot of philosophies out there, but okay, so it goes from an idea to a philosophy. A philosophy doesn't have the responsibility of answering all the important questions, all right? But then sometimes a person says, this is a good philosophy, and I think we can answer a lot more questions with it. And so they begin to try to answer other questions about life with that philosophy. That makes it an emerging worldview. It's starting to become, but is not yet fully formed as a worldview. And then last step in that process is that it actually becomes a worldview. All right, so that's something to be taking a look at. Okay, now if you're working your way down the review sheet here, okay, I'm just going to take these in order the way they are on the review sheet. I'm going to, no, okay, forget that. I'm going to come back to presuppositions just because I want to stay a little tighter order. So skip over presuppositions. We'll come back to it. And let's do the 6 dominant Western religious worldviews. That's what we're going to be studying in class. That's what's in the textbook. So let's name them. Biblical Christian, okay, secular humanist, Marxist-Leninist, New Age or cosmic humanist, postmodern, and Islamic. Okay, those are the 6 Western religious worldviews that we're going to be taking a look at. Now, you'll notice I'm not repeating things. That's because, God bless you, you're watching this on YouTube video. You can watch this thing over and over and over again if you'd like, just to make sure that you're getting all the content and are preparing well for the test that's coming up. And if you're not going to be taking the test for some reason, maybe you're auditing or you're being permitted to enter the course late and are not being required to take the test, okay, that's fine. But just take the time to make sure that you're getting this material into your thinking. All right, so. Okay, so we take a look at these worldviews and we start to say, well, let's compare and contrast some of them. So philosophically, let's start to look at these worldviews and let's start to understand a few different ways to view truth. Okay, so for some of these worldviews, they are what we would call materialistic or naturalistic worldviews. In other words, they believe that everything that is real is matter. Okay, that in essence, the naturalist, all that exists is nature, material nature. Okay, materialism and naturalism are very close together, and for the sake of that, in this course, we will not try to split the definitions between them. Naturalist and materialist, pretty much the same thing, just a little different ways of expressing it. So anyway, so if I'm a materialist, that doesn't mean I want a lot of stuff for Christmas. Okay, and philosophy, if I'm a materialist, that means I believe everything is real is matter. Okay, it's material. So everything is material or everything is matter. All right. Well, on the other side of that spectrum, you've got another group of people, and they would say, well, no, that in its essence, what is real, okay, and therefore where we would expect to find truth, all right, philosophically, is spirit, and that they would say everything is spirit. Now, they aren't materialists. They are what we would call non-naturalists. Okay, they reject the idea that the essence of reality and truth is matter, and they would say everything is spirit. All right, so if it's real, it's spirit, and spirit is what is real. Everything that is real is spirit. Now you would say, wait a minute, don't they believe in tangible reality? Yes, they believe in tangible reality, but only as an expression or a manifestation of spirit. And the example that I use, it's an analogy. All analogies eventually break down, but to give you an idea here, okay, you walk into a movie theater and you look up on the screen, you go, hey, look, there's Brad Pitt. All right, well, but no, Brad Pitt's not up on the screen. Okay, what's real is there's a projector in the back of the room that's projecting an image of Brad Pitt on the screen. Now, you would walk out of that theater, and if somebody said, have you ever seen Brad Pitt? You say, yeah, saw Brad Pitt the other night. And it's like, why are you saying that? Well, because you saw a projection that you've come to think of as real in some way. All right, but what's real is the projector that's projecting it. And what they would say is that spirit is what's manifesting that. And so the reality that you need to concern yourself with, the ultimate reality, the essence of reality, is spirit. And so they would say everything is spirit. Well, but then there are other worldviews. And in this case, the materialists